Zixthara stared at her computer screen with all four of her crystal eyes. The numbers did not make sense. She had been working at the Galactic Council monitoring station for 12 years, and she had never seen anything like this before. Station floated in space around a small planet called Kepler 442b. It was a quiet place where different alien species watched what happened in the galaxy. Zixthara's job was to study human behavior patterns. Most species were easy to understand. They followed simple rules, but humans were different. She looked at the data again. Every time humans said the words "hold my beer" in their communications, something impossible happened within 3 days. Not just unlikely things. Impossible things. Her first clue came from a mining station called Alpha 7. This station was home to 400 people who dug valuable metals from asteroids. 3 months ago, their main ship had problems during a solar storm. The fusion reactor that gave them power was breaking down. Without it, everyone would die. The ship's captain was a human named Jake Sullivan. Zixthara had listened to the audio recordings from that day many times. Jake's voice was calm when he spoke to his crew. "The automatic systems are dead," Jake had said. "Someone needs to go into the reactor room and restart it by hand." His second officer, a woman named Lisa Rodriguez, had argued with him. "Jake, that's suicide. The radiation will kill you in minutes. And even if it doesn't, no one has ever restarted a fusion reactor manually during a solar storm." Jake had laughed. It was a strange sound to Zixthara's ears. Humans laughed when they were happy, but also when they were about to do something very dangerous. "Hold my beer," Jake had said. Those 3 words had triggered something in Zixthara's monitoring system. The computer marked it as an unusual phrase, but nothing more. What happened next made no sense. Jake had put on an old radiation suit and walked into the reactor room. The radiation should have killed him. The heat should have cooked him. The magnetic fields should have scrambled his brain. Instead, Jake had somehow restarted the reactor. He had saved all 400 people on the mining station. But that was not the strangest part. The strangest part was that this kept happening. Zixthara pulled up another file. Captain Lisa Rodriguez had said the same words before flying her. "Ship through the Crimson Nebula." The nebula was a maze of gas and deadly energy that no ship had ever crossed. Space pilots called it the ship graveyard because so many had tried and died. But after Lisa said, "Hold my beer," she had flown through it like it was empty space. She had even found a new trade route that cut travel time between 2 star systems in half. Then there was Pete Johnson, an engineer on a cargo ship. Pirates had attacked his convoy with 50 ships. Pete's ship only had basic shields and no weapons. The pirates should have destroyed them easily. Pete had looked at his tools and spare parts. He had studied the pirate ships on his scanner. Then he had said those 3 words and started building something impossible. In 2 hours, he had created a defense system from junk that had driven off the entire pirate fleet. Zixthara had found 17 more cases like this. Each time, a human said, "Hold my beer," and then did something that should have been impossible. The pattern was perfect. No exceptions. She typed her report carefully. The Galactic Council needed to know about this, but they would not believe her easily. Council members came from 12 different species, and most of them thought humans were just lucky primitives. The door to her office opened with a soft hiss. Her supervisor, Kethmer, walked in. He was tall and thin with gray skin and large, black eyes. His species, the Vorthok, were known for being very logical. "Zixthara, I heard you requested a meeting with the High Council," Kethmer said. "What is so important that it cannot wait for the regular monthly report?" Zixthara turned her screen toward him. "I have discovered something about human behavior that could change how we understand them." Kethmer looked at the data. His expression did not change. The Vorthik rarely showed emotion. "You want to report that humans say strange words before taking risks?" he asked. "This is not news. All species have rituals and sayings." "It is not just a saying," Zixthara explained. "Every time they say these specific words, they succeed at tasks with a 0% probability of success. Look at the numbers." Kethmer studied the screen more carefully. Zixthara watched his large eyes move as he read the reports. After several minutes, he straightened up. "This could be coincidence," he said, but his voice was less certain now. 17 times in a row?" Zixthara asked. "What are the odds of that?" Kethmer was quiet for a long time. The Vorthik were excellent at mathematics. He was probably calculating the probability in his head. "Very small," he finally admitted. "But correlation does not prove causation. Perhaps humans only say this phrase when they are very confident." "Then explain Jake Sullivan," Zixthara said. "The reactor restart had a 0% success rate. According to our best engineers, no amount of confidence should have mattered." She pulled up a video file. It showed Jake working in the reactor room, his movements calm and sure despite the deadly environment around him. Sparks flew from broken machinery. Warning lights flashed red. But Jake worked like he was fixing a simple kitchen appliance. "Our scientists studied this recording for weeks," Zixthara said. "They cannot explain how he survived, let alone how he succeeded." Kethmer watched the video twice. When it ended, he looked at Zixthara with something that might have been worry. "I will arrange a meeting with the High Council," he said. "But they will want more proof than 17 incidents." "Then we wait and watch," Zixthara replied. "I have a feeling we will not wait long." She was right. 3 days later, her monitoring system detected the phrase again. This time it came from a research station where a human scientist named Amanda Foster was studying alien life forms. The creature she wanted to contact had destroyed 3 previous research teams, but Amanda had said the magic words, "and against." All logic and probability. Zixthara knew that somehow Amanda would succeed where others had failed. The galaxy was about to learn that when humans said, "Hold my beer," impossible things became possible. Amanda Foster stood in front of the massive crystal formation that had killed 3 research teams. The thing was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. It stood 20 feet tall and pulsed with blue light. Every few seconds, deadly energy. Waves shot out from it, turning anything they touched into dust. The research station Gamma Prime was built specifically to study this creature. Scientists from across the galaxy had tried to communicate with it for 5 years. Every attempt had ended in death. Amanda was a xenobiologist, which meant she studied alien life forms. She was good at her job, but she was not special. At least, that is what everyone thought. She looked at her equipment. She had a basic translation device, some recording tools, and a shield generator that might protect her for 30 seconds. The other scientists had used much better equipment and still died. Amanda's colleague, Dr. Ruthven from the Aquatic Collective, watched her from behind a thick wall of protective glass. "Dr. Foster, this is madness," Ruthven said through the intercom. "The creature has shown no interest in communication. It only destroys." Amanda smiled. She had read all the reports. She knew the risks. But she also knew something the other scientists did not know. She knew about patterns and timing and the strange power that seemed to follow certain human words. "Hold my beer," Amanda said quietly. 300 light-years away, Zixthara's computer immediately flagged the phrase. Warning signals flashed on her screen. The probability calculator showed a 0% chance of success for Amanda's mission. But Zixthara was learning to trust the pattern. She opened a direct communication line to the Galactic Council's emergency response team. Amanda walked toward the crystal creature with slow, careful steps. The energy waves hit her shield and bounced away. But the shield was weakening fast. Instead of running, Amanda did something strange. She sat down on the floor in front of the creature. She pulled out her lunch and started eating a sandwich. "What is she doing?" Dr. Ruthven asked in confusion. Amanda took another bite of her sandwich and spoke to the crystal. "You know, you are really pretty. I bet you are just scared and hungry like everyone else." The creature stopped pulsing. The deadly energy waves stopped firing. For the first time in 5 years, the research station was completely quiet. Amanda finished her sandwich and pulled out an apple. She held it toward the crystal. "Want to try some food? It is sweet." The crystal began to glow with a softer light. Thin tendrils of energy reached out, not to destroy, but to gently touch the apple. The fruit dissolved, but not into dust. It became pure energy that the crystal absorbed. "You are hungry," Amanda said with understanding. "You have been trying to eat, but you do not know how to ask nicely." Over the next hour, Amanda taught the creature basic communication. She used simple hand signals and food offerings. The crystal learned quickly. Soon it was pulsing in patterns that matched Amanda's words. Dr. Ruthven recorded everything with shaking hands. "Impossible," he whispered. "The translation matrix shows it is actually learning our language." By the end of the day, Amanda had established basic communication with the creature. It called itself something that translated to "lonely singer." It had been alone for centuries, trying to find others like itself. The energy attacks were not meant to hurt anyone. They were distress calls. News of Amanda's success spread across the galaxy in hours. The Shard Collective, a mysterious group of crystal beings, immediately sent a diplomatic mission to Gamma Prime. They had been searching for their lost member for 300 years. The reunion between Lonely Singer and its people was beautiful. The crystals sang together in harmonies that made grown aliens cry. What had been a dangerous creature became the bridge for the first peaceful contact between the Shard Collective and the rest of the galaxy. Meanwhile, on the cargo station Omega-7, mechanic Tony Brooks was having a very bad day. The main jump gate that connected his system to the trade routes had exploded during a routine maintenance check. Without it, the station would be cut off from the galaxy. Food and supplies would run out in 2 weeks. Tony looked at the wreckage of the jump gate. It was supposed to be impossible to repair without a full shipyard and 6 months of work. He had spare parts from other machines, and 2 days before the next supply ship was supposed to arrive. His supervisor, Captain Morris Chun, shook his head sadly. "We will have to evacuate the station, Tony. There is no way to fix this in time." Tony picked up his toolbox and studied the broken machinery. Jump gates used quantum field generators to fold space. The theory was incredibly complex, but Tony had been fixing machines his whole life. To him, it was just another broken device. "Hold my beer," Tony said to Captain Chun. Captain Chun had never heard this phrase before, but something about Tony's tone made him step back and watch. Tony started taking apart machines that had nothing to do with jump gates. He pulled out power cores from the life support backup system. He removed computer chips from the communication array. He even took apart 3 coffee makers from the station's break room. Other workers gathered to watch. They thought Tony had lost his mind from stress, but Tony worked with the confidence of someone who knew exactly what he was doing. He connected power cores in ways that should have caused explosions. He wired computer systems that were never meant to work together. He used coffee maker heating elements as quantum field stabilizers. 18 hours later, Tony's impossible creation came to life. The jump gate activated with a sound like singing crystals. But it did more than just work. According to the sensors, It was running at 300% normal efficiency. The first ship to use Tony's repaired gate arrived in half the normal time. The captain was so surprised, he almost crashed into the station. Word of Tony's achievement reached the Galactic Council within days. Combined with Amanda's success, it created a storm of discussion among the member species. General Clacter of the Military Intelligence Division was particularly interested. His insectoid species valued efficiency and logic above all else. The human pattern made no sense to him, but he could not ignore the results. "We need to understand this phenomenon," he told his staff. "If humans can achieve the impossible at will, they represent either the greatest opportunity or the greatest threat in galactic history." He ordered his analysts to begin tracking every human communication channel. If more humans said these magic words, he wanted to know immediately. On the distant world of Haven 9, Admiral Susan Clark was preparing for what everyone believed would be her final battle. The Void Raiders had gathered their entire fleet to destroy her small group of ships. She was outnumbered 10-1. Susan looked at her tactical display and smiled. She had a plan that was either brilliant or insane. "Hold my beer," she told. Her bridge crew, across the galaxy, warning lights began flashing on monitoring stations. Zixthara had not slept in 3 days. Her crystal body was glowing brighter than usual, which happened when her people were excited or worried. Right now, she was both. The Galactic Council's Central Intelligence Facility was buzzing with activity. Aliens from 12 different species worked at computers, tracking human communications across the galaxy. What had started as Zixthara's simple observation had become the largest monitoring operation in galactic history. She stood in front of a massive screen that showed her new creation. The Human Improbability Index was the most advanced prediction system ever built. It watched every human message, every communication signal, every recorded conversation. When it detected the phrase, "Hold my beer," it immediately calculated the probability of what might happen next. The system had been tested 5 times already, and it had been right every time. "Show me the latest results," Zixthara said to her assistant, a young Vorthic named Jelmer. Jelmer's long fingers danced across his keyboard. "Admiral Susan Clark defeated the Void Raiders yesterday. Her fleet of 12 ships destroyed over 100 enemy vessels. Our analysts still cannot explain how she did it." Zixthara nodded. She had watched the battle recordings. Susan had used a tactic that no military academy taught. She had hidden her ships inside an asteroid field and used the space rocks as weapons. When the Void Raiders came to attack, Susan's ships had pushed asteroids at them like giant bullets. It should not have worked, but it destroyed the enemy fleet completely. "What else?" Zixthara asked. "Yesterday, the system detected another phase activation," Jelmer continued. "A human asteroid miner named Danny Wright is attempting to move. A planet-killer asteroid that is heading toward the colony world of New Boston." Zixthara felt her crystal body grow even brighter. A planet-killer asteroid was exactly what it sounded like. When one hit a world, it destroyed all life on the HFY surface. According to their calculations, the asteroid heading for New Boston was big enough to crack the planet in half. "How big is his ship?" she asked. "A standard mining vessel." "About the size of a small cargo hauler. The asteroid is 4 miles wide and weighs approximately 50 billion tons. Any other species would have evacuated the planet and accepted the loss. But Danny Wright had said the magic words. Now he was flying his tiny ship toward certain death, planning to push an asteroid that outweighed his vessel by 1,000,000,000,000 to 1. "Have we evacuated our observation teams from that system?" Zixthara asked. "General Clacter ordered full evacuation 6 hours ago. He classified it as a Class X probability event." Class X was the highest threat level in their system. It meant that something so unlikely was about to happen that their computers could not even calculate the odds. The Galactic Council had only declared Class X events twice before in their entire history. Zixthara watched the real-time data from the new Boston system. Danny's ship was a tiny dot on the screen compared to the massive asteroid. He had attached all of his mining equipment to the space rock and was using his engines to try to change its course. It was like watching an ant try to push a mountain. But somehow, slowly, the asteroid began to change direction. Danny had found the exact right spot to apply pressure. He was using the asteroid's own rotation to help him steer it. After 6 hours of constant engine burn, the giant rock missed New Boston by 300 miles. But Danny was not finished. Instead of just pushing the asteroid away, he guided it into orbit around a nearby gas giant. Within a year, the former planet killer had become the most valuable mining resource in the sector. Impossible, Jelmer whispered. Add it to the file, Zixthara said, and prepare the updated report for the council. The next case came just 2 days later. Construction worker Carlos Mendez was working on a space elevator on the world of New Terra. Space elevators were giant cables that stretched from a planet's surface up to a space station. They made it easy to transport cargo without using expensive rockets. But the New Terra elevator had a problem. The cable was breaking under too much weight. If it snapped completely, it would fall back to the planet and destroy everything for 100 miles around. Millions of people lived in that area. Carlos was just a regular construction worker. He built things and fixed things. He was not an engineer or a scientist. But when he saw the cable starting to snap, he knew what he had to do. Hold my beer, Carlos told his partner. Maria Santos. Maria had worked with Carlos for 5 years. She had never heard him say anything like that before, but something about his voice made her take the beer bottle and step back. Carlos looked at the failing cable, with eyes that saw things differently than other people. Where engineers saw complex physics and impossible problems, Carlos saw a building project that needed fixing. He started by using his construction equipment in ways it was never designed for. He took cable supports meant for small buildings and somehow made them work on a space elevator. He used welding torches to create new connection points at exactly the right spots. He even had workers tie regular rope around sections of the cable to help hold it together. Every expert said his plan would never work. The forces involved were too great. The materials were not strong enough. But Carlos kept working like he was building a simple bridge. When he was finished, the space elevator was not just fixed. It was stronger than before. Carlos had improved the original design without even understanding the science behind it. The Galactic Council's insurance companies were the first to notice the pattern. Every time a human said, "Hold my beer," something expensive got fixed or something valuable got created. They started calling it the Human Beer Protocol and began factoring it into their risk assessments. But General Clactor was worried about something else. His military mind saw a different pattern. Humans were not just fixing things or achieving difficult goals. They were doing things that changed the basic rules of how the universe worked. Director Zixthara, General Clactor said during their weekly briefing, "I need to ask you something important. Is there any limit to what humans can do when they say this phrase?" Zixthara had been asking herself the same question. She looked at her data, at case after case of impossible achievements. "I do not know, General, but I think we are about to find out." Her computer screen flashed with a new alert. The Human Improbability Index had detected another phrase activation. This time it came from a human nurse named Kelly Patterson on the frontier world of Haven-7. Haven-7 was dying from a plague that had no cure. Kelly was about to attempt something that every doctor in the galaxy said was impossible. The galaxy held its breath and waited to see what would happen when humans refused to accept the word impossible. Kelly Patterson stood in the middle of what used to be Haven 7's busiest hospital. Now it looked like a war zone. Bodies lay covered in white sheets in the hallways. The few doctors who were still alive moved like ghosts, their faces hidden behind masks that could not stop the Red Death plague. The plague had no cure. It killed 90% of the people who caught it, and it spread faster than wildfire. Haven 7 had been a thriving colony world with 2 million people. Now fewer than 50,000 were still alive. Kelly was just a nurse. She was not a doctor or a scientist, but she had watched too many people die, and she was tired of feeling helpless. Dr. Marcus Webb, the last remaining head doctor, found her in the supply closet. Kelly was gathering bandages, medicine bottles, and cleaning supplies. "Kelly, what are you doing?" Dr. Webb asked. His voice was exhausted. He had not slept in 3 days. "I am going to cure this plague," Kelly said simply. Dr. Webb stared at her. "Kelly, you know that is impossible. The best medical minds in the galaxy have been working on this for months. There is no cure." Kelly looked at the sick people lying in the hospital beds. Children were crying for parents who would never wake up. Old people were dying alone because their families were already dead. "Hold my beer," Kelly said quietly. 3,000 light-years away, Zixthara-Os computer system immediately detected the phrase. Warning lights flashed across the Galactic Council's emergency center. Every alien government in the galaxy received an automatic message. Human beer protocol activated, medical emergency classification. But Kelly did not know about any of that. She only knew that people were dying and someone needed to help them. She started by doing something that made no scientific sense. Instead of trying to kill the plague virus, she decided to make friends with it. Kelly took samples of the virus and put them in different containers. She talked to them like they were pets. She gave them different types of food to see what they liked. She played music for them and watched how they moved. Other nurses thought she had lost her mind from stress. But Kelly kept working. After 12 hours, she noticed something strange. The virus samples that she had been nice to were changing. They were still alive, but they were not trying to hurt the healthy cells she gave them. Instead, they seemed to be protecting the healthy cells from other viruses. Kelly realized something important. The Red Death virus was not evil. It was just confused and scared. It was attacking healthy cells because it thought they were enemies. She started treating sick patients like she had treated the virus samples. Instead of fighting the disease with strong medicine that made people sicker, she gave them gentle care. She talked to them softly. She made sure they had good food and clean water. She even sang to them while they slept. The other doctors thought she was wasting time. But something amazing started happening. The patients that Kelly cared for stopped getting worse. Their fever went down. The red spots on their skin began to fade. After 3 days, they were completely healthy. Dr. Webb could not believe what he was seeing. "How is this possible? You are not even using any real medicine." Kelly smiled. "I am using the best medicine there is. I am being kind." She had discovered something that all the smart scientists had missed. The Red Death virus responded to emotions. When people were scared and angry, the virus became more dangerous. But when people were calm and happy, the virus became helpful instead of harmful. Within a week, Kelly had developed a treatment that worked every time. It was not really a medicine. It was a way of caring for sick people that turned the virus from an enemy into a friend. But Kelly was not finished. She realized that the changed virus could do more than just stop being dangerous. It could actually help people. The virus that had once killed people was now protecting them from 12 other diseases that plagued frontier worlds. News of Kelly's Miracle Cure spread across the galaxy faster than the plague had spread across. Haven 7. Medical schools wanted to study her methods. Governments wanted to hire her. But Kelly just kept working in her little hospital, taking care of anyone who needed help. The Galactic Council held an emergency meeting to discuss what Kelly had achieved. Representatives from every major species gathered in the great chamber on the neutral world of Diplomatic Station Alpha. Council, member Vertan of the Reptilian. Hegemony was the first to speak. His species was known for being suspicious and careful. They trusted very few other races, and they definitely did not trust humans. Fellow council members, Vertan said, his voice echoing in the large chamber, we have a serious problem. Humans are becoming too powerful. They are changing the basic rules of science and medicine. This makes them dangerous to galactic stability. Several other council members nodded in agreement. The Crystalline Collective worried about unpredictable species. The machine consciousness valued logic and order above all else. To them, humans seemed chaotic and uncontrollable, but Ambassador Beth Williams of the human delegation stood up to respond. She was a calm, intelligent woman who had spent her whole career building bridges between different species. Council members. Beth said, I understand your concerns, but I ask you to look at the results of these incidents. Jake Sullivan saved 400 people. Amanda Foster brought us peace with the Shard Collective. Tony Brooks created better technology. Danny Wright turned a planet killer into a resource. Carlos Mendez improved space elevator design. Kelly Patterson saved an entire world. She paused and looked around the chamber. Every single time a human has said those words, something good has happened. We have not hurt anyone. We have not taken anything from anyone. We have only helped. Council member Jex Tara of the Aquatic Collective raised a tentacle to speak. Her people were known for their wisdom and fairness. The human ambassador makes a good point, Jex Tara said, but the unpredictability itself is concerning. How do we plan for events that our computers say are impossible? The debate continued for hours. Some species wanted to isolate humanity until they could understand the phenomenon better. Others wanted to study humans more closely. A few suggested that maybe the galaxy should learn from humans instead of fearing them. Finally, Ambassador Beth Williams was allowed to speak again. I have a proposal, she said. Instead of trying to contain us or control us, work with us. When we say hold my beer, instead of panicking, send help, send observers, send resources. If we are going to do impossible things anyway, let us do them together. The council voted. It was close, but Beth's proposal won. They created the Human Monitoring Protocol. Instead of trying to stop humans from achieving impossible things, they would help them do it safely. Early warning systems would alert emergency teams when the phrase was detected. Scientists would document what happened. Engineers would study. The results. It was the first time in galactic history that a species was officially recognized as being impossible to predict. As the council meeting ended, Trade Representative Rick Morrison was arriving at the war-torn Sigma Quadrant. 2 alien species had been fighting there for 500 years. Every peace negotiation had failed. Rick looked at the battle reports and diplomatic files. Then he smiled and picked up his communication device. Hold my beer, he said to his assistant. Across the galaxy, warning lights began flashing again. The Maelstrom Nebula was the most dangerous place in the galaxy. It was a swirling mass of gas, energy, and broken starships that stretched across 3 solar systems. Nothing that entered the nebula ever came out alive. Deep inside this cosmic graveyard, something ancient was waking up. The Devourer fleet had been sleeping for 10,000 years. They were not ships with crews inside. They were machines that thought for themselves, built by a race that had died out long ago. Their only purpose was to eat everything they could find and make copies of themselves. When the Devourers had first appeared in the galaxy, they had destroyed 3 entire civilizations. Billions of people had died before the machines finally went dormant in the Maelstrom Nebula. Now they were awake again. Captain Roy Palmer of the human deep space vessel Pioneer was the first to see them coming. His ship was small and fast, designed for exploring dangerous areas of space. Roy and his crew of 12 volunteers had been mapping the outer edges of the nebula when their sensors detected movement in the gas clouds. "Captain, you need to see this," said his science officer, Lieutenant Sarah Kim. Her voice was shaking. Roy looked at the sensor display and felt his blood turn cold. Thousands of dark shapes were moving through the nebula toward the edge of civilized space. Each shape was the size of a battleship, but they moved like living creatures. "How many?" Roy asked quietly. "Computer says at least 50,000, sir. And they are building more as they move." Roy had read the historical files about the Devourers. The last time they had awakened, it had taken the combined fleets of every species in the galaxy to stop them. Even then, victory had only come at a terrible cost. This time, there were twice as many Devourers as before. Roy opened a communication channel to Galactic Command. "This is Captain Palmer aboard the Pioneer. I am declaring a Code Black emergency. The Devourer fleet is active and moving toward inhabited space." The response came from Admiral Janet Brooks of the Galactic Defense Force. Her voice was grim. "Confirmed, Captain Palmer. We are evacuating all ships from the Sigma and Delta sectors. How much time do we have?" Roy looked at his navigation computer. "At their current speed, they will reach the first colony worlds in 6 days." "Understood. Captain, you are ordered to withdraw immediately. Do not engage the enemy under any circumstances." Roy stared at the sensor display. The Devourer fleet was spreading out like a disease, consuming everything in its path. Asteroids, gas clouds, even light itself seemed to disappear when the machines touched it. Every military computer in the galaxy ran the same calculation. The combined fleets of all civilized species had a 0.003% chance of victory. It was not a battle. It would be a massacre. But Roy Palmer had spent his whole life exploring places where other people were afraid to go. He had never backed down from a challenge, and he was not going to start now. "Hold my beer," Roy said quietly to his crew. 100 light years away, every alarm in the Galactic Council's monitoring center started screaming at once. Zixthara jumped so fast that she cracked one of her crystal fingers. "Code Black activation of human beer protocol," shouted her assistant Jelmer. "All systems are showing maximum threat assessment." General Clockter arrived in the monitoring center within minutes. His insectoid face showed no emotion, but his antennae were twitching rapidly, which meant he was either very excited or very worried. "What is the human planning?" the general asked. Zixthara pulled up Roy's ship specifications on her screen. "He has a small exploration vessel with basic shields and no weapons. He is facing 50,000 self-replicating war machines. And our probability calculations? The computer will not even try to calculate odds, sir. It just displays impossible when I ask for success probability." General Clockter was quiet for a moment. Then he activated his communication system. "All Council ships in the Maelstrom sector, this is General Clockter. Evacuate to minimum safe. Distance, but maintain observation positions. Whatever the human is about to attempt, we need to record it." Roy Palmer was studying the sensor readings of the Devourer fleet when he noticed something interesting. The machines were not just randomly destroying things. They were following a pattern, using the nebula's energy fields to power their replication. "Process. Sarah, show me the energy flow patterns in the nebula," Roy said. Lieutenant Kim brought up a complex display showing how energy moved through the gas clouds. "The whole nebula is like a giant battery, Captain. The energy flows in specific channels between the star systems. Roy smiled. He had an idea that was either brilliant or completely insane. If someone could disrupt those energy channels, what would happen to anything using them for power? He asked. Theoretical shutdown of all systems drawing energy from the nebula, Sarah replied. But Captain, you would need to create a cascading quantum resonance across 3 star systems. That is impossible. Roy looked at his crew. They were all volunteers who had signed up for dangerous missions. They knew the risks when they joined his ship. Listen up, everyone, Roy said. I have a plan to stop the Devourers. It is going to be dangerous, and I cannot guarantee we will survive. Anyone who wants to leave can take the escape pods now. Nobody moved. What do you need us to do, Captain? Ask Chief Engineer Tom Rodriguez. For the next hour, Roy explained his plan. It involved flying into the heart of the Maelstrom Nebula and using the Pioneer's engines to create a specific type of energy pulse at exactly the right moment. The pulse would travel through the nebula's energy channels and shut down every machine connected to them. Every scientist who heard the plan said it was impossible. The energy requirements were too great. The timing had to be perfect down to the microsecond. One small mistake would vaporize Roy's ship and accomplish nothing. But Roy had something that the scientists did not have. He had said the magic words. Pioneer flew into the Maelstrom Nebula like a tiny fish swimming into the mouth of a whale. The gas clouds around them glowed with deadly radiation. Energy bolts from the Devourer ships lit up the darkness. Roy's crew worked with the calm efficiency of people who knew they were doing something impossible, but were going to do it anyway. Chief Rodriguez modified the engines in ways that should have caused them to explode. Lieutenant Kim calculated quantum field equations that had no right to work. Navigator Lisa Chun plotted a course through energy streams that existed only in theory. As they reached the center of the nebula, Roy could see the Devourer fleet stretching out in all directions. Thousands of dark ships turning asteroids and gas clouds into more copies of themselves. Energy pulse ready, Captain, Chief Rodriguez reported. All hands brace for impossible physics, Roy announced over the ship's intercom. He pressed the button. The Pioneer's engines released a wave of energy that should have been impossible to create. The wave spread out through the nebula's energy, channels faster than light, reaching every corner of the 3 star systems in seconds. Every Devourer ship stopped moving at exactly the same moment. Their self-replication systems shut down. Their weapons went silent. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Devourer fleet was completely powerless. Roy Palmer had saved the galaxy with a plan that no computer could understand, and a ship that should not have been able to do what it did. The impossible had become possible once again. 6 months after Captain Roy Palmer saved the galaxy, everything had changed. The new Galactic Unity station floated in space at the exact center of civilized territory. It was the biggest space station ever built, with representatives from every known species working together on projects that had once seemed impossible. Zix Thara stood in her new office on level 47 of the station. The sign on her door, Director of Human Studies, Human Probability Department. She still could not believe how much her life had changed since she first noticed that strange pattern in human communications. Through her office window, she could see construction crews working on the station's newest section. Humans worked side by side with aliens, building things that neither species could have created alone. What had started as fear and suspicion had grown into the most successful cooperation in galactic history. Director, the morning briefing is ready, said her new assistant, a young human named Mark Peterson. The Galactic Council had decided that the Human Probability Department needed both alien and human staff to work effectively. Zix Thara walked into the briefing room where her team was waiting. Half of them were aliens from different species. The other half were humans who had volunteered to help study their own impossible achievements. "Good morning, everyone," Zixthara said. "What do we have today?" Mark Peterson stood up first. Engineer Sam Rodriguez activated the protocol yesterday evening. He is attempting to design a faster-than-light communication network. Zixthara nodded. Sam Rodriguez was quickly becoming famous across the galaxy. 3 months ago, he had been just another engineer working on communication satellites. Then he had said the magic words and started working on something that should have been impossible. "Where is he now?" Zixthara asked. "Laboratory Complex C, Level 12. He has been working for 18 hours straight. His team says he is building something using principles that do not exist in any physics textbook." This was normal now. When humans said, "Hold my beer," the Galactic Council no longer panicked. Instead, they sent teams of scientists to watch and learn. They provided resources and support. Most importantly, they invested money in whatever impossible thing the human was trying to achieve. The old fear had been replaced by excitement and opportunity. Dr. Kethmer, Zixthara's former supervisor, raised his hand. He had requested a transfer to her department after Roy Power's victory over the Devourers. "Director, I have been studying the quantum mathematics behind Sam's communication project," Dr. Kethmer said. "According to our best theories, what he is building should not work. But our computers are showing positive test results." "How positive?" Zixthara asked. "He has achieved instantaneous communication across a distance of 50 light years. The signal arrived at its destination before it was sent." Zixthara felt her crystal body glow brighter with excitement. Faster-than-light communication had been a dream for thousands of years. If Sam succeeded, every world in the galaxy could talk to every other world instantly. "Has he explained how it works?" she asked. Mark Peterson smiled. "He says he is not sure himself. He just knows that information wants to travel fast, so he built a system that lets it do what it wants to do." This was typical human logic. Where other species saw complex scientific problems, humans saw simple solutions. They did not always understand why their solutions worked, but they worked anyway. "Any other activations?" Zixthara asked. "Actually, yes," said Dr. Veltara from the Aquatic Collective. "And this one is unusual. The activation came from a non-human." Zixthara's crystal eyes widened. In all the months they had been studying the phenomenon, only humans had ever triggered it. "Who?" she asked. "You, Director. Last night at the station's opening ceremony." Zixthara remembered the ceremony. Representatives from every species had gathered to celebrate the new era of cooperation. There had been speeches and music and food from dozens of different worlds. At the end of the night, she had been talking to some human engineers about their latest project. They wanted to build a device that could translate not just words, but emotions between different species. Everyone said it was impossible because emotions work differently for each race. Zixthara had listened to their ideas and found herself caught up in their enthusiasm. Without thinking, she had said the words that had become famous across the galaxy. "Hold my beer," she had said in perfect English. "But I am not human," Zixthara said to her team. "How can I trigger a human phenomenon?" Dr. Kethmer smiled, which was unusual for his normally serious species. "Perhaps it is not a human phenomenon after all. Perhaps it is something that any species can learn." Mark Peterson nodded. "We have been studying this wrong. We thought humans were special because they could do impossible things. But maybe the real discovery is that impossible things are not really impossible. Maybe they just require a different way of thinking." Zixthara thought about this. Over the past months, she had watched humans achieve miracle after miracle, but she had also watched alien scientists learn from those achievements. The boundaries between possible and impossible were becoming blurred. "Show me what happened after my activation," she said. Dr. Veltara brought up a recording from the previous night. It showed Zixthara working with the human engineers on their emotion translator. But instead of using traditional translation algorithms, she had suggested something completely different. "I told them to stop trying to translate emotions and start sharing them," Zixthara remembered. "Instead of converting feelings from one species to another, we could create a device that lets different species feel the same emotions at the same time." The recording showed her building a prototype using crystals from her own body combined with human technology. It should not have worked, but within 3 hours, they had created a device that let a human feel the joy that a crystalline collective member felt when they sang, and let the crystal being experience the warmth that humans felt when they hugged. "It works," Dr. Kethmer said quietly. "Aliens from 6 different species tested it this morning. They could all share emotions perfectly." Zixthara realized something important. The hold my beer phenomenon was not about magic words or special human abilities. It was about approaching problems with complete confidence that solutions existed, even when logic said they did not. "I want to test a theory," she announced. "Dr. Kethmer, is there any project you have always considered impossible?" Dr. Kethmer thought for a moment. "I have always wanted to create artificial gravity without using rotation or acceleration. Every physics law says it cannot be done." "Then let us try," Zixthara said. "But first, I want you to say something." Dr. Kethmer looked confused, but he trusted his director. "Hold my beer," he said in his careful, logical voice. Across the station, monitoring systems that had been specifically designed to detect those words began flashing. But this time, instead of emergency warnings, they displayed a new message: "Confidence protocol activated. Impossible achievement probable." Within 6 hours, Dr. Kethmer had created a device that generated gravity fields using controlled quantum fluctuations. It was the first artificial gravity system that worked on any scale without needing massive spinning structures. Word of the discovery spread quickly through the station. Aliens from every species started saying the magic words before attempting their own impossible projects. Engineers created new types of engines. Artists designed sculptures that changed color based on the viewer's emotions. Cooks invented foods that tasted different to each species, but somehow satisfied everyone perfectly. Station's bar became the unofficial headquarters for impossible achievement attempts. Bartender Mike Thompson, one of the humans who had helped design the station, watched aliens from dozens of species gather every evening to share their latest discoveries. As Mike served drinks to a group that included crystal beings, insectoid warriors, aquatic philosophers, and reptilian diplomats, he smiled at how much the galaxy had changed. A young Vorthic engineer approached the bar nervously. "Bartender Thompson, I am attempting to create a material that is stronger than diamond, but lighter than air. My professors say this is impossible." Mike handed the alien a drink and winked. "You know what you need to say, friend." The Vorthic took a deep breath. "Hold my beer." Mike took the drink back and watched as another impossible thing became possible. The galaxy had learned that the only real difference between possible and impossible was believing that solutions existed. And sometimes all it took was 3 simple words and the confidence to try anyway. In her office high above the bar, Zixthara updated her final report. The Human Probability Department had discovered something more valuable than any technology or scientific breakthrough. They had discovered that the universe was much more flexible than anyone had ever imagined. As she finished writing, Zixthara looked out at the stars and smiled. Somewhere out there, someone was probably saying, "Hold my beer," right now, and getting ready to change the galaxy once again. And that was exactly how it should be.